Have you ever noticed that the moment you start pursuing a different definition of success, some people become uncomfortable, not because you're failing, but because you're no longer playing the same game they are. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into a trap that catches a lot of high performers. The trap isn't failure. The trap isn't allowing other people's scoreboard to determine whether you're winning, because the moment you start measuring your life by standards you never chose, you could be making progress every day and still feel like you are falling behind. And that's the dangerous place to be, because eventually you stop asking, am I moving toward the life I want? And you start asking, why don't I feel successful yet? Here's the question, family, I'd like for you to think about for a moment. Who gave you your definition of success? No, seriously, who decided what winning looks like to you? Was it you, or was it a collection of expectation you've inherited over the years? Maybe it was your family. Maybe it was social media. Maybe it was your profession. Or maybe it was just people who genuinely just cared about you, but see life through a completely different lens. Because if we're not careful, we can spend years chasing goals we were never actually chose to go through with. See, we climb ladders only to discover that we're leaning against the wrong wall. Oh, that hurts. That does. Because, see, we'll hit a milestone that we're supposed to make and make us happy, only to realize they never belonged to us in the first place. And family, I just want you to hear me closely and clearly. That's where we are in today's conversation. Oh boy, I guess I'm about to share this story again. All right, forget it. I remember we fell in the PMP exam about 3 times, and a family member pulled me aside and said something that on the surface, it sounded incredibly supportive. They said, hey, ED, you don't need the PMP. You already have a master's in project management. You already got your years of experience. You actually understand project management. Why? Oh, why are you spending all your time studying theory, taking practice exams, reading all these books? You've already paid your dues. Now, here's something that's very interesting, family. They weren't trying to discourage me. They cared about me. They didn't want to see me frustrated. But what I eventually realized is that they were looking at my situation through their scoreboard. Their scoreboard said I already accomplished enough. My scoreboard said I wasn't finished yet. And family, that's when I learned something important. You have to be just a little bit delusional enough to believe that you can accomplish something before the evidence actually shows up. Delusional enough to keep going when people around you, they don't understand why you're trying, and wise enough to pay attention to who is willing to give you advice, because not everyone who cares about you shares your vision. Not everyone who loves you understands the assignment that you're on, and not everyone who supports you sees what you're trying to build. And if you're not careful, you allow somebody else's definition of enough to become your ceiling of your potential. Fast forwarding today, some people might look at my content and focus on my views. They may even focus on subscriber count. They may even focus on revenue. And depending on the scoreboard that they're using, they may conclude that the effort is not even worth it. Or as the old folks would say, the juice is not worth the squeeze. But what they don't see is who I'm becoming. I'm becoming a better communicator. I'm becoming a better teacher. I'm becoming a better leader. I'm becoming someone capable of helping more people than I could before. And that realization changed everything, because the longer I live, the more I realize something. Success is not just about what you're achieving, it's also about who you're becoming in the process. Principle number one: the person you're becoming matters more than the scoreboard you're watching. You know what is hard? No, 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 no. What is really hard is stepping into the person you're becoming before the results arrive. You start asking yourself questions. Am I doing too much? Will this even matter? What if nobody notices? What if I fail? What if I just eventually just quit? But I don't know about you, family. There's something inside of me that just won't let me quit. Trust me, I've tried it. Yet somehow, some way, I find myself right back here again, still building, still learning, still showing up. Because deep down, I know something. The transformation is already happening. The confidence is growing. The communication is definitely improving. And leadership, ooh, it is developing. See, the discipline is being built. And long before the world sees the results, the work is already changing the worker. Here's a lesson I would like for you to think about, fam. Many people focus so much on the destination that they overlook the transformation. I'll say that again because I may have said it too fast. Many people focus so much on the destination that they overlook the transformation. Sometimes the greatest reward isn't what you accomplish. Sometimes it's who you become while you're pursuing it. That's a shout bomb right there. Experiment with these actionable tips. Create a list of skills you're developing while pursuing your goal. At the next one, at the end of each week, ask yourself, who am I becoming? Instead of just only asking, what did I achieve? I want you to ask, who am I becoming? Here's my professional advice for you. Never allow a temporary result to blind you from permanent growth. But even when you understand who you're becoming, you still encounter another challenge. Progress rarely looks the way we expect it to. Principle number two, progress often looks like failure before it looks like success. Ooh, this is getting good to me, family, because most people, not you, but most people, they celebrate the outcome. Very few people celebrate the repetition that it created. Nobody applauds the practice test. Nobody applauds the early videos. Nobody applauds the mistakes. Nobody applauds the days when nobody was watching. But that's where growth lives. From the outside, progress and failure often look identical because both involve setbacks, both involve frustration, both even involve making mistakes. But the difference is that one person stops and the other person keeps going. Here's the lesson I want you to think about. The absence of visible results does not mean the absence of progress. Here's two actionable tips I love for you to experiment with. Track effort-based metrics in addition to outcome-based metrics. Next one, keep a record of small improvements so you can see evidence of your growth when motivation fades. Here's my professional advice, family. When results are delayed, borrow confidence from your consistency. Ooh, I like that, family. And sometimes the challenge isn't the work. Sometimes it's the people around us. Principle number three, the people who know your past may not understand your future. Oh, I'm about to make somebody mad today, and I'm glad because you need to hear this. See, one of the strangest parts of growth is that the people who know you best sometimes struggle to understand where you're going because they know where you've been, but they don't know where you're going, not because they're against you, not even because they don't care, but because they're familiar with who you've been. And while you're trying to become someone you've never been before, they're sitting back watching because every meaningful transformation requires a period where your future is visible to you before it's visible to everyone else. Oh, that's good. See, this is why faith matters. This is why belief matters. This is why vision matters, because there will be seasons where you're the only person who can see what is actually being built. Here's the lesson I want you to think about, family. You don't need everyone to understand your vision. You just simply need enough conviction to continue pursuing it. Here's two actionable tips I love for you to experiment with. Stop seeking validation from people who are not pursuing a similar path. Next one. Spend more time around people who challenge your growth rather than explain why growth isn't necessary. Here's my professional advice. Listen respectfully to everyone, but give the greatest weight to people who have experience traveling the road you're actually walking. Here's some clarity, family. When you put all these principles together, something starts to become clear. Many of the struggles we experience aren't always the result of a lack of talent. They're not always the result of a lack of opportunity. Sometimes they're the result of measuring ourselves by standards we never chose. Think about what we've discussed today. The person you're becoming matters. The progress often looks invisible before it becomes obvious. And the people who know your past always, well, not always, they don't always know your future or understand your future. Those lessons change the way I think about success because I realized something. Success isn't about reaching a destination. Success is having the courage to keep pursuing a vision that makes sense to you, even when it doesn't make sense to everyone else. And family, that leads me into my final reflection. Success becomes dangerous when you allow other people to define it for you. Because when you spend your time chasing scoreboards, you never choose. You overlook growth. You'll dismiss progress. You'll abandon goals that still matter to you simply because somebody else decided you had already done enough. And when you're willing to keep pursuing it, even when other people don't understand, it pushes you further because the people around you may be measuring success by a completely different scoreboard. That's their choice. The real question is, what does success mean to you? Because at the end of the day, the goal is just not to achieve more. The goal is to become more. And sometimes the greatest victories in life happen long before anybody else can see them. The person you're becoming may be the greatest success story you're building right now because sets and reps beat talent when talent doesn't do the reps. If you're new to the episode, I go by the name ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.